Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Code Switch in 2020. Today we continue with our grade 12 mathematics at looking at calculus, derivative from the first principle. So by the end of the day, you must be able to use the first principle to determine the derivatives where we are given a, b, and c as constant. For example, if we are given a formula like f of x equals to ax squared plus bx plus c, or f of x equals to ax cubed, or f of x equals to a over x, or f of x equals to c, where a, b, and c are constant. So the derivative from the first principle is given by the formula f prime of x is given by the limit as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h. This is our definition of the first principle. So let's look at the example on how to use the first principle to find the derivative. We are going to deal with the 4 examples. So if you have a bit of understanding in how to find the derivative using the first principle, please pause the video and try them out. So without any waste of time, let's look at the first one. The question says determine f prime of x from the first principle if f of x equals to 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. Then we're given f of x equals to 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. The derivative from the first principle is given by f prime of x will be equal to the limit as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x all divided by h. So it is advisable to do f of x plus h first on the side before you substitute it on the original equation. So you're going to say f of x plus h, meaning where I see x on f of x, I substitute x plus h. This will be 2 into x plus h squared minus 3 into x plus h plus 4. So from the original equation of f of x, where I see x, I put x plus h. Therefore you simplify. This will be 2 binomial of x plus h multiplied by x plus h. You will get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. Negative 3 multiplied by x will be negative 3x. Negative 3 multiplied by h will be negative 3h plus 4. So you multiply each term by 2 to simplify. This will be 2 multiplied by x squared is 2x squared. 2 multiplied by 2xh is positive 2. 2 multiplied by 2xh is 4xh. 2 multiplied by h squared is positive 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h plus 4. This will be our f of x plus h. So we are going to substitute. We are going to say f prime of x is given by the limit as h approaches 0. What is f of x plus h? We have simplified, is 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h plus 4 minus f of x, which is open brackets, so that we'll be able to distribute the negative sign. This will be 2x squared minus 3x plus 4, close brackets, all divided by h. So let's simplify this side. We are going to say, then you bring down the limit. This will be equal to the limit as h approaches 0, 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h plus 4. Then we distribute the negative sign. Is negative multiplied by 2x squared. It's negative 2x squared. It's negative multiplied by negative 3x. Negative multiplied by negative is positive 3x. Negative multiplied by positive 4 comes negative 4. All divided by h. And always f of x must cancel out after you've simplified, meaning 2x squared minus 2x squared cancel out, negative 3x cancel out positive 3x, positive 4 cancel out negative 4. Then we are going to be left with the limit as h approaches 0. We have 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3h, all divided by h. The next step will take h on the numerator out as a common factor. This will be equal to the limit as h approaches 0. We take h out, we'll be left with 4x minus 2h minus 2h squared minus 3, all divided by h. Therefore, h cancel out h, will be left with the limit as h approaches 0. Will be left with 4x minus 2h squared minus 3. Then we substitute the value of 0. Then we don't write the limit anymore. This will be equal to 4x minus 2 into 0 squared minus 3. Then our final answer will be 4x minus 3. So let's do a quick recap of the first example. We are given the C determine f prime of x from the first principle, where we are given f of x equals to 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. We said the formula for the first principle is f prime of x equals the limit as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. Then I said the first thing, you try to simplify f of x plus h by doing it on the side. Then when we simplify it, where we see x, we substitute x plus h. So remember, squared, this becomes binomial multiplied by binomial. Then x plus h squared becomes x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. And again, you multiply that negative 3 with x plus h, then becomes negative 3x minus 3h plus 4. Then you multiply each term by 2 on the first part, then you will get 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h plus 4. Therefore, you write f prime of x will be the limit as h approaches 0. You substitute your f of x plus h, which you have simplified. Then after minus f of x, you put it inside the brackets because of the negative will affect each term. Then you divide all by h. And again, remember, as I've said, the values of f of x must cancel out. If they don't cancel out, it means you made a mistake somewhere. You must go and double check. After f of x has cancelled out, you will be left with each term having h on the numerator. Then you're going to take h out as a common factor, and h will cancel out h on the denominator. You will be left with 4x minus 2h squared minus 3. Then the last step, you substitute 0. You don't write the limit as h approaches 0 anymore when you substitute 0. And your final answer will be is 4x minus 3x using the first principle. Let's look at question number 2. Question number B, find the derivative from the first principle when f of x is given by negative 3x cubed. So, as I've said that the formula, the derivative from the first principle is f prime of x is given by the limit as h approaches 0. We are given f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. And I said it becomes better if you start by simplifying f of x plus h on the side. Then let's do f of x plus h this side. We're going to say f of x plus h will be given by negative 3, where I see x, I substitute x plus h cubed. Then, to simplify this one, you will say negative 3 f of x plus h is the same as x plus h, x plus h, x plus h. Then you can simplify, do binomial by binomial, the first two, then after do the third one. So once you have simplified it, you must get negative 3 x cubed minus 9 x squared h minus 9 x h squared minus 3 h cubed. Once you have simplified your f of x plus h, then you're going to take your f of x plus h, substitute it. This will be the limit as h approaches 0. F of x plus h is negative 3x cubed minus 9 x squared h minus 9 x h squared minus 3 h cubed. minus f of x inside the brackets is negative 3x cubed, all divided by h. Then the next step, you bring your limit, is the limit as h approaches 0. Negative times negative is positive. Then this becomes negative 3x cubed minus 9x squared h minus 9x h squared minus 3h cubed plus 3x cubed, all divided by h. This will become the limit as h approaches 0. And remember, I said always f of x must cancel out. This will be negative 3x cubed, cancel out positive 3x cubed. Then we'll be left with negative 9x squared h minus 9x h squared minus 3h cubed, all divided by h. Then once f of x has cancelled out, we need to take h as the common factor. This will be because the limit as h approaches 0. When we take h out as a common factor, on the numerator we'll be left with negative 9x squared minus 9xh minus 3h squared, all divided by h. Therefore h will cancel out h. We'll be left with the limit as h approaches 0. We have negative 9x squared minus 9xh minus 3h squared. Then the last step is to substitute the value of h when it approaches 0. You don't write the limit anymore. This becomes negative 9x squared minus 9x, where I see h I substitute 0, minus 3, where I see h I substitute 0, 0 squared. Therefore, after I substituted 0, this becomes 0, 0. F prime of x will be given by negative 9x squared. So let's do a quick recap. We are given f of x, which equals negative 3x cubed. Then they said find f prime of x using the first principle. The first principle says the limit as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. I said we started by finding f of x plus h on the side. Then where I see x, I substitute x plus h, meaning negative 3 into x plus h cubed. Simplifying this, I got negative 3x cubed minus 9x squared h minus 9x h squared minus 3h cubed. Then I took f of x plus h, substituted it, negative 3x cubed minus 9x squared h minus 9x h squared minus 3h cubed, minus into brackets. I put f of x inside brackets because of the negative sign will affect it when you do negative times negative. Then when you multiply negative times negative, we got positive 3x cubed. Then I always say that f of x must cancel out. Negative 3x cubed cancel out 3x cubed. Then we're left with negative 9x squared h minus 9x h squared minus 3h cubed. Then after f of x has cancelled out, then you take out the common factor, which is h. Then h will cancel out h. Then we are left with negative 9x squared minus 9xh minus 3h squared. Therefore, at this point is where we substitute the limit as h approaches 0. Where we see h, we substituted 0. Then our final answer became negative 9x squared. So let's look at number C. Number C said f of x is given by 5 over x. Then they said find f prime of x from the first principle. We said from the first principle, f of x, f prime of x is given by the limit as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. Then I said on the side, let's find f of x plus h, meaning where we see x, we must put x plus h. Then since we cannot simplify this any further, we're just going to take it and substitute to the original. This becomes the limit as h approaches 0. Where we see f of x plus h, we substitute 5 over x plus h minus f of x, which is 5 over x, all divided by h. Then we need to simplify 5 over x plus h minus 5 over x. When you look at these two, the lowest common denominator will become x plus h multiplied by x. How many times does x plus h goes into x plus h multiplied by x? X plus h cancel out x plus h, it goes x time. X multiplied by 5 becomes 5x. How many times does x goes into x plus h multiplied by x? X cancel out x, it goes x plus h time. Then this becomes negative 5 into x plus h. Then when we are still simplifying, this becomes 5x. Negative 5 multiplied by x becomes negative 5x. Negative 5 multiplied by positive h becomes negative 5h. All divided by x plus h multiplied by x. As I've said, f of x must always cancel out. 5x cancel out 5x. What are we left with? We'll be left with negative 5h over x plus h multiplied by x. So we come back this side, this becomes the limit as h approaches 0. We said this part is the same as negative 5h divided by x plus h multiplied by x divided by h. Let's use the division sign. When we divide, we know we change the reciprocal. This becomes equals to the limit as h approaches 0, negative 5 over h, all divided by x plus h multiplied by x. This will become multiplied by 1 over h. H will cancel out h. We'll be left with the limit as h approaches 0, negative 5 over x plus h multiplied by x. Then we can substitute 0 where we see h. This becomes negative 5 over x plus 0 multiplied by x, which becomes negative 5 over x multiplied by x is x squared. X multiplied by 0 is 0. Therefore, the derivative from the first principle, this becomes negative 5 over x squared. Then let's do a quick recap. I said determine the derivative from the first principle if f of x is given by 5 over x. Then we said the formula for the first principle is f prime of x is given by the limit as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x all over h. Then I said let's do f of x plus h on the side and see if we can simplify it. This became 5 over x plus h. Since we couldn't simplify it any further, we want to substitute to say the limit as h approaches 0, 5 over x plus h minus f of x, which is 5 over x, all divided by h. Therefore, I said let's simplify 5 over x plus h minus 5 over x. We said the lowest common denominator is x plus h multiplied by x. Then x plus h cancel out x plus h, becomes x multiplied by 5, which is 5x. X cancel out x, we are left with x plus h, which is negative 5 multiplied by x plus h. When we simplify it, 5x cancel out negative 5x, we are left with negative 5h over x plus h multiplied by x. Then we took it to substitute it to say the limit as h approaches 0, negative 5h divided by x plus h, all divided by x over h, so that we can change the division sign to become multiplication, which is 1 over h. 1 over h cancel out h. Then we are left with negative 5 over x plus h multiplied by x. We said now we can substitute 0 where we see h. Then this became negative 5 over x plus 0 multiplied by x. Then we got x multiplied by x is x squared, x multiplied by 0 is 0. Then our final answer became negative 5 over x squared. So let's look at number D. Number D said f of x equals to 7. Then they said determine f prime of x from the first principle. We said f prime of x is given by the limit as h approaches 0, f of x plus h minus f of x, all divided by h. So I said on the side, let's find f prime of x plus h. So from f of x, where we see x, we substitute x plus h. But f of x is 7, meaning f of x plus h will be 7. So let's substitute. This becomes the limit as h approaches 0, f of x, since there was no x, it was only 7, we'll say 7, minus f of x, which is 7, all divided by h. So this becomes the limit as h approaches 0, 0 over h. 0 divided by h is the same as 0. So what does this say? This tells us that the f prime of x of a constant will always be 0. So in most cases they'll never ask you to find the derivative from the first principle where you're only given a constant. We are going to use the rules. So Thank you for watching. For more videos, please go to Code Switching 2020.